Hi, I'm Katie Chappell.
Hi, I'm Ashley Kreipel.
And today we are doing the video for the cranial nerves. So we're going to start with olfactory nerve, which is your cranial nerve number 1. And this nerve is the one that is sensory, and it obviously works with smell. And so with that one, a good way to test it is just by having somebody smell something out of one nostril at a time and just making sure that they are able to smell it. So Ashley would smell this, sniff out of one side, sniff on the other, and then she could smell, and so that one is properly functioning.
Okay, the second cranial nerve is the optic nerve, and it is strictly sensory, and it's testing eyesight. So you'd have them use the Snellen chart and have them hold it out in front of them and have them read the lowest line that they could.
LEFOD-PCT.
And then you could use the Hardy-Rand-Ritter test to test for color acuity. And it's got different color circles, and the circles are one color and the numbers inside of it are different color, and you'd have them read that off.
And it's 25, 71, 71, and then there's an M.
And that's the optic nerve.
And then we are going to go ahead and move to the number 3 nerve, which is your ocular motor. This one is strictly for motor, and I'm going to go ahead and throw the trochlear nerve, which is nerve number 4, cranial nerve number 4, because both of these are motor senses who whenever you're assessing for it in a patient, you'd have them stare straight at you, and then you'd move your finger up here to the side one, only with your eyes, and then you'd move up here, you'd watch their eyesight to make sure it moves. You do that one, and then down here, and then over here, and you're going to do 6 different points, and you're watching to make sure that their eyes are able to move each direction and that they're not doing this little faint wiggle, just to make sure that they're properly moving. And obviously Ashley's are both working.
Okay, and then for 5 you have the trigeminal nerve. It is both sensory and motor. To test this, you take a cotton swab, in case I have this cotton ball because that's all I have, and you would have them close their eyes and touch their face with the cotton swab and have them point to where I touched. And the 3 spots, because it's a trigeminal nerve, so it has 3 branches to it. And that's 5.
And that would be number 5. And then we're going to go ahead and go to the abducens, which is cranial nerve number 6. And this one is strictly motor. And with this one, you're going to take a pen light, and you're going to make sure that the pupils are dilating and working properly. And that one, awesome. And that one. And they are doing it consensually, so both eyes are dilating at the proper times when not in the opposite eyes, so they're doing that. And like I said, that one is strictly motor.
So 7 is the facial nerve and is both sensory and motor. You would test this by having them smile and see if they smile evenly on both sides to see if you could use this to test for stroke, because one side would droop or not work. And they could also have like upper or lower like functioning. So you can have them raise their eyebrows to test for to make sure that the upper half of their face is working, and then have them smile to see if their lower half is working.
And then after that one, you're going to go to the vestibular cochlear nerve, which is cranial nerve number 8. And this one is a sensory one. It has to do with your hearing. And so what you would do with this is that there's 2 different tests that you would do. You do the Weber test, which is whenever you hold a tuning fork in the middle of the forehead, and you make sure you ask the client. So we don't have a tuning fork, but I would say, Ashley, can you hear it louder in one ear or is in the other, or how do you hear it?
It'd be equal.
And then, yeah, if they are properly working, then it would be equal. And there's also the Ryan's test, which is when you take the tuning fork, you obviously tap it, and then you hold it back on the mastoid process, and then that has bone conduction through her hearing and affects all that. And then until she would let me know whenever she can't hear it, and then I would take it, have the open end towards her ear, and then the air conduction one we would see, and if she's properly having that nerve work, then it would she would hear the air conduction one longer than she would hear the one that's on the bone.
So for 9, that's the glossopharyngeal. It is both sensory and motor, and you can test this by having them open their mouth and have them say ah. Their uvula is supposed to raise up symmetrically. You can also test the vagus nerve, which is 10, which is also both sensory and sensory and motor, by doing the same thing.
And then we're gonna go to the accessory nerve, which is motor, and that is when you're checking just all the muscles and type things like that. And so a good way to do that is I'd ask Ashley to turn her head both ways. Thank you. Go ahead and turn it the other way. Oh, I meant this way, but that's fine. Okay. And then another way is to test her sternocleidomastoid mastoid in this. And I would put resistance up against her shoulders. And can you give me a shrug? Mm-hmm. Awesome. And she can shrug against my resistance. So she is working properly with her accessory muscles as well.
And the last one, cranial nerve 12, is the hypoglossal nerve. This one is motor, and this one you can test by just having them open their mouth and extend their tongue. And you would look for atrophy, symmetry, and see if there's any ridges.
So again, we have cranial nerves number 1, which is olfactory.
2 is the optic nerve.
And 3 is ocular motor.
4 is trochlear.
5 is trigeminal nerve.
6 is abducens.
7 is your facial nerve.
8 is vestibular cochlear.
9 is glossopharyngeal.
10 is vagus.
11 is accessory nerve.
And 12 is glossopharyngeal.
And a good mnemonic to remember this, whether it's motor or sensory, on all of those. Do you want to say it? Do you want to? Okay, so it says, some say money matters, but my brother says big brains matter more. That is a good acronym just to remember, whether it's sensory, motor, or both. So those are just some ways that Ashley and I have learned this. And yeah, so that is our cranial nerve video.